Sebastian's pen hovered above the contract, the tip barely touching the paper. One signature. That was all it would take. One stroke of ink, and he would become the man who closed the largest deal of his career, the deal that would finally put his company on the map. The boardroom was deathly silent. Cold white lights glared down from the ceiling. Men in black suits sat motionless around the long table, eyes fixed on him like wolves waiting for the kill. Across from him, Mr. Castellanos leaned back in his chair, a thin smile cutting across his face like the edge of a blade. "Sign it, Sebastian. Opportunities like this don't wait for anyone." Beside Sebastian, Miguel, his best friend since college, the man he trusted more than family, leaned in close and whispered, "Do it! I've checked everything. This is our big break." Sebastian drew in a slow breath. His fingers tightened around the pen. The tip of the pen touched the paper. At that exact second, a soft, rhythmic sound cut through the silence, the quiet swish of a broom sweeping the floor behind him. A young cleaning woman in a faded gray uniform was working near the door. Her head was down, her movements mechanical, almost invisible. Sebastian barely registered her until she stopped. She looked up. Their eyes met. Hers were wide with raw panic, the kind of terror that only comes when someone has seen something they were never meant to see. She took one quick, desperate step forward, then bent low behind his chair. Her voice was barely a breath, but it sliced straight through him. "Don't sign. They're going to take everything from you." Sebastian froze. Miguel whipped around. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Get out." Mr. Castellanos frowned, his voice icy. "Who let her in?" The cleaning woman's hands trembled so badly that the broom shook in her grip, but she kept her eyes locked on Sebastian, clinging to this one last chance. "Please, just give me 10 seconds. If you sign, you'll lose everything." Sebastian stared at the pen in his hand. He looked at Miguel, the friend who had stood by him through every failure, every late night, every time the company nearly collapsed. Then he looked at the cleaning woman, a complete stranger whose name he didn't even know. The air in the room felt thick enough to choke on. Mr. Castellanos' voice sharpened. "We don't have time for this nonsense. Sign the contract. Now." Miguel's jaw clenched. "Don't listen to her. She's just the cleaner." And that single phrase, "just the cleaner," hit Sebastian like a punch to the chest, because in that moment he realized he was standing at the edge of a question that could destroy him. Who do you trust when both men claim they're telling the truth? Your best friend, the man who once saved you from bankruptcy, who drank with you through every sleepless night? Or a stranger, a woman so invisible that no one in this room even knew her name, yet she was willing to risk everything to whisper one warning? Sebastian lowered the pen until the tip hovered just a millimeter above the signature line. The entire room held its breath. He lifted his gaze, voice low but steady. "You said I'll lose everything? What proof do you have?" The cleaning woman swallowed hard, her eyes glistening. "I have proof, but if I show it here, they'll destroy me." Miguel shot to his feet. What did she just say? Sebastian's heart hammered against his ribs because the contract on the table was no longer just a business deal. It had become a trap. And he was holding the pen right above its jaws. The pen still hovered in Sebastian's hand like a blade suspended by a thread. Miguel's jaw tightened as he fought to keep his composure in front of the clients. "Sebastian, don't waste time. Sign it. She's just trying to cause trouble. Mr." Castellanos leaned back with a thin, mocking smile. "If you don't sign right now, I walk, and you lose this opportunity forever." Sebastian looked from one man to the other, then back to the young cleaning woman standing behind his chair. She was trembling, but her eyes held a desperate, unyielding resolve, the kind that belonged to someone who had already seen too much pain and refused to watch it happen again. He set the pen down on the table. The small motion froze the entire room. "Give me 60 seconds, he said quietly. Mr. Castellanos frowned. "What kind of game are you playing?" Sebastian ignored him. He turned fully to the cleaning woman. "What's your name?" She swallowed hard. "Camilla. Camilla," he repeated, his voice steady. "Tell me quickly." "Where is this proof?" Camilla glanced nervously at Miguel, then at Mr. Castellanos, and lowered her voice to a whisper only Sebastian could hear. "Not here. If you want to stay alive, stand up and follow me right now." Miguel shot to his feet. "Sebastian, don't be crazy. This is a multi-million-dollar deal. Sebastian cut him off, his tone cold. "If this deal is clean, you shouldn't be afraid of me listening for 30 seconds. Miguel's mouth snapped shut. Sebastian stood up. As he moved toward the door, Mr. Castellanos' voice sliced through the silence like a final warning. "If you walk out of this room, you will regret it." Sebastian paused at the threshold and looked back. "I'll regret it more if I sign while I still have doubts." He followed Camilla out into the hallway. The heavy door clicked shut behind them with a sound that felt final. Layer 1. Camilla was never accidental. She had heard what no one was supposed to hear. Camilla led him quickly down the corridor and into the women's restroom on that floor, the one place with no security cameras inside. She locked the door, breathing fast. "I didn't want to get involved in rich people's business," she whispered, "but I overheard them talking." Sebastian's eyes narrowed. "What did you hear?" Camilla pulled out her phone with shaking hands and pressed play on a short recording. Miguel's voice came through clearly cold and calculating. "Once he signs, we transfer all the liabilities to his name. He'll carry everything. We walk away clean." Sebastian stood completely still. The blood drained from his face. Camilla continued, her voice trembling. "I clean this boardroom every single night. They think I'm invisible. So they talk freely." Sebastian stared at her. "Why would you risk recording that?" Camilla's eyes filled with pain. "Because I've seen this trap before." Layer 2. The partner company was already bankrupt. The contract was a noose designed to transfer debt. She reached into the pocket of her uniform and pulled out a crumpled email she had rescued from the shredder bin. "I found this in the paper shredder yesterday. I know it was wrong to take it, but if I had left it there, you would have been destroyed." Sebastian unfolded the sheet. Red numbers screamed across the page under the header, "Castellanos Group Insolvency Risk High." He looked up, voice tight. "Their company is about to collapse." Camilla nodded. "They need someone to take the fall. You sign, you inherit all their debts. They walk away clean, you get buried." Sebastian felt the floor tilt beneath him. Layer 3. The fine print that could destroy an empire. Sebastian's breath came faster. Numbers aren't enough. What about the actual contract? Camilla reached deeper into her pocket and produced a blurry photocopy she had taken while cleaning. "I don't understand all the legal words, but I saw this paragraph." Miguel kept underlining it every time he reviewed the documents. Sebastian scanned the page. Near the bottom, in tiny font, almost impossible to read without a magnifying glass, was one sentence. "In the event of default, all liabilities shall transfer in full to the acquiring party and its principal officer personally." Sebastian's blood ran cold. This wasn't a partnership. It was a legal trap designed to strip him of everything he owned. Layer 4. Miguel's betrayal wasn't new. He had been undermining Sebastian for years. Camilla hesitated, then showed him another set of printed emails she had secretly photographed from the copy machine late at night. In one message, Miguel had written to Castellanos, "Sebastian is desperate. He'll sign anything. He always trusts me." Sebastian read the words twice. His hands began to shake. Miguel had not betrayed him once. He had been setting him up for years. The failed projects, the close calls, the moments Miguel had saved him. They had all been carefully orchestrated to keep Sebastian dependent, to make him believe Miguel was the only one he could trust. Layer 5. The hook that keeps viewers glued. They were already being watched. Suddenly, Camilla froze. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. She killed the lights in the restroom and pulled Sebastian into the far corner behind the door. Through the narrow gap, they saw a pair of polished black dress shoes stop right outside. A man's low voice spoke the voice of Castellanos' personal assistant. "I saw the cleaning girl leave with Sebastian. Find her." Sebastian held his breath. Camilla was shaking so violently her teeth chattered. She whispered, barely audible, "See, it's not just about the contract anymore. If you stay and sign, they'll destroy you. And if I speak out, they'll destroy me too." Sebastian looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. She was no longer just the cleaner. She was a woman, risking her life for a stranger. He made his decision in that heartbeat. "We're leaving." Camilla cracked open the service stairwell door. They slipped out and began running down the emergency stairs, footsteps echoing like gunshots in the concrete shaft. As they reached the underground parking level, Sebastian's phone vibrated. A text from Miguel Bro come back. Don't embarrass me. One sentence, but Sebastian understood perfectly. Miguel wasn't worried about the deal. He was terrified of being exposed. Sebastian looked at Camilla, his voice low and final. Can you prove all of this in front of everyone? Camilla swallowed hard, tears in her eyes, but she nodded. If you're brave enough to face them, Sebastian stared up at the towering glass building where the boardroom still waited for his signature. The trap was still open, and he was about to walk straight back into it. The emergency stairwell was cold and dimly lit, the red exit signs flickering like a dying heartbeat. Their footsteps echoed sharply against the concrete as Sebastian and Camilla raced downward, breath coming in short, desperate bursts. Camilla didn't cry. She simply trembled, the kind of deep, bone-shaking fear that comes from someone who had already been pushed to the edge too many times and knew exactly how much further she could fall. They reached the basement parking level. Camilla leaned against the wall, one hand pressed to her chest as if trying to keep her heart from breaking through her ribs. Sebastian looked at her, voice low. Are you okay? She shook her head. I'm just scared they'll see me. Sebastian gripped the bundle of papers tighter in his fist. For the first time in his life, a man who commanded boardrooms and closed 9-figure deals felt completely lost. He asked quietly, Why are you doing this? You could have stayed invisible. You could have let me sign and gone back to cleaning, like nothing happened. Camilla lifted her eyes to meet his. There was no hero's glow in them, only the raw exhaustion of someone who had already lost everything once and refused to watch it happen again. Because I've watched a man sign a contract exactly like that one, she whispered, her voice cracking. And then my entire family disappeared. Sebastian froze. She wasn't a miracle. She was a survivor. Camilla pulled the collar of her faded uniform higher as if trying to hide the weight she carried. Then she let out a shaky breath and spoke the truth she had buried for years. My name is Camilla Reyes. I clean during the day and study nursing at community college at night. Sebastian frowned. Why 2 jobs? She gave a bitter, exhausted smile and looked down at her worn shoes. Because no one in my family has the luxury of living slowly. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a crumpled bus pass. I take 3 buses to get here every single day. If I'm late, they dock my pay. If I get fired, my little sister drops out of school. The simple words, my little sister drops out, landed like a stone in Sebastian's chest. He had always had Teams advisors' safety nets. Camilla had only a bus pass and the fear of failing the one person left in her world. Sebastian's voice softened. Your sister. Camilla swallowed hard, tears gathering in her eyes. She's studying to be a doctor. She's brilliant. I can't let her end up like me, working nights invisible, scared every single day. The emotional peak. The wound that made her risk everything. Camilla was silent for a moment. Then she pulled out her phone and opened a photo. It showed a middle-aged man standing proudly in front of a small corner store, smiling gently at the camera. My father, she said, voice breaking. Sebastian looked at the image. Camilla continued, barely holding herself together. He wasn't rich. He just had that little store. But he trusted people. Her eyes filled with fresh tears. One day, a business friend came to him and said he could help expand. They brought a contract. They said, just sign, we're like brothers. She let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. My father signed. 1 week later, they vanished. All the debt was in his name. The store was seized. My father, he couldn't live with the shame. Sebastian felt ice slide down his spine. Camilla nodded slowly, painfully. He died of a broken heart, not from illness, from betrayal. In that moment, the story stopped being about Sebastian's trap. It became about Camilla trying to save a stranger from the exact same pit that had killed her father. She looked up at him, voice cracking. From that day, I learned one thing. Men in suits don't always kill with guns. Sometimes they kill with small print. Sebastian stood motionless, the fine print clause from the contract burning in his mind like poison. The explosion, Miguel's calls, and Camilla's breaking point. Sebastian's phone began vibrating violently in his pocket. Miguel calling once, twice, 3 times. Sebastian didn't answer. Miguel's texts came in rapid succession. Bro, come back. Castellanos is pissed. Don't let a cleaner ruin your life. You owe me. The word cleaner hit Camilla like a slap. She stumbled backward, whispering in terror, "See, they don't even see me as a person." Sebastian reached for her. "Camilla, you are a person, and you just saved my life!" She shook her head frantically, eyes wild with fear. "No, they'll fire me. They'll follow me. I can't let my sister get hurt because of me." She covered her face with both hands, breathing fast. "I shouldn't have said anything. I should have stayed quiet like always." Sebastian realized the truth in that second. Camilla wasn't born a hero. She was an ordinary woman doing the right thing, even though it terrified her. And that ordinary courage was breaking his heart. The highest emotional peak, Camilla almost walks away, then shows the one thing that keeps her there. Camilla suddenly reached into her pocket and pulled out a small folded photograph, its edges worn soft from years of carrying. She opened it with trembling fingers. It was a picture of her younger sister in a white medical coat, smiling brightly at her graduation. Camilla stared at the photo, tears falling freely now. "I'm not allowed to make mistakes. If I lose this job, she drops out. She'll have to work night shifts like me. And then she'll become invisible, too." She looked up at Sebastian, her voice barely a whisper, raw with desperation. "Please, if you go back and confront them, don't let them turn me into the thief. I can't survive that again." Sebastian's throat tightened. He understood perfectly. If he saved only himself and left Camilla behind, she would be destroyed. And in that moment, Sebastian stopped being just another victim. He became the man who would protect her. He stepped forward, voice steady and final. "You are not invisible, not anymore." He pulled out his phone and opened the voice recorder. "If they try to touch you, I will make sure the whole world hears what they did." Camilla stared at him, tears streaming down her face. Sebastian looked toward the elevator that would take them back up to the boardroom. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of a promise. "We're not running." Camilla's eyes widened in fear. "Going back is suicide." Sebastian met her gaze without blinking. "Number. Going back is the only way we both get to live." He pressed the elevator button. The door slid open with a soft ding. Sebastian stepped inside first, then turned and held out his hand to her. Camilla hesitated, trembling. Then she took his hand. The doors closed. As the elevator rose, Sebastian looked at the terrified woman beside him and spoke the words that would change everything. "You saved me because you didn't want anyone else to die like your father. Now it's my turn to make sure they don't destroy you." The elevator doors opened with a soft chime onto the executive floor. Sebastian stepped out first, still holding Camilla's hand. Her fingers were ice cold against his. Together they walked down the long glass hallway toward the boardroom, the sound of their footsteps echoing like a countdown. Inside the room, nothing had changed. Mr. Castellanos sat at the head of the table. Fingers steepled, expression bored. Miguel paced near the window, phone in hand, clearly agitated. The lawyers and assistants watched in silence as Sebastian and Camilla entered. Miguel's eyes narrowed the moment he saw them together. "What the hell is this?" Sebastian didn't sit down. He remained standing, Camilla slightly behind him, and placed the bundle of evidence on the polished table with deliberate calm. "Before anyone signs anything," he said, voice steady, "I want everyone in this room to hear something." He pressed play on his phone. Miguel's recorded voice filled the room, clear and unmistakable. "Once he signs, we transfer all the liabilities to his name. He'll carry everything. We walk away clean." The silence that followed was absolute. One of the lawyers shifted uncomfortably. A junior assistant's eyes widened. Mr. Castellanos' thin smile faltered for the first time. Miguel laughed, but the sound was strained. "That's fake. She doctored it. She's just a cleaner trying to extort us." Sebastian slid the printed emails across the table. And these, also fake. Miguel's face drained of color as he recognized his own words. "Sebastian is desperate. He'll sign. He always trusts me." Sebastian looked directly at his oldest friend. "You didn't just betray me once, you've been setting me up for years." Castellanos leaned forward, voice smooth as oil. "This is ridiculous. Sign the contract or we walk away and sue for breach of good faith." Sebastian pushed the contract toward the lawyers. Read the fine print out loud. The part about liabilities transferring personally to the acquiring party. The lead lawyer hesitated, then read the clause. The room grew even quieter. Sebastian turned to Castellanos. You wanted me to carry your bankrupt company's debts. You wanted me to be the fall guy. Castellanos shrugged. Business is business. The weak carry the burden. That's how the world works. Sebastian's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. Not anymore. He picked up his phone again and dialed. I'm calling my legal team and the financial authorities. Right now, in front of all of you. Miguel's mask finally cracked. He stepped forward, eyes desperate. Sebastian, come on, bro. We've been through everything together. Don't throw it away over some cleaner who's probably after money. He spun toward the room, pointing at Camilla. She stole documents. She recorded private conversations. She's committing corporate espionage. The accusation landed like a bomb. One lawyer looked at Camilla with sudden suspicion. Another whispered to his colleague. Even Castellanos allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. Camilla stood frozen, the color draining from her face. The very fear she had whispered about in the stairwell was now happening in real time. She was being painted as the criminal. Sebastian felt the shift in the room like a physical blow. He turned to her. Camilla, how did you get these documents? The question hung in the air. Camilla's eyes filled with tears. The betrayal in her gaze cut deeper than any shout could have. She looked at Sebastian, the man who had just promised to protect her, and saw the same doubt everyone else had always shown her. You too, she whispered, voice breaking. Even you, Sebastian, reached for her. No, I didn't mean. But it was too late. Camilla backed away, shaking her head. I told you they would do this. I told you they'd turn me into the thief. And you asked the same question they wanted you to ask. Tears streamed down her face as she turned and ran from the room. Sebastian lunged after her. Camilla, wait. The door slammed behind her. Miguel exhaled in relief, already regaining his composure. See, she ran. Guilty people always run. Sebastian ignored him. He stared at the empty doorway for one heartbeat, then two. Then he made his choice. He walked straight past Miguel, past Castellanos, past every shocked face in the room, and followed Camilla out. By the time he reached the lobby, she was already gone. The security guard at the front desk pointed toward the street. She ran that way, sir. Looked upset. Sebastian sprinted out into the evening chill. He spotted her half a block away, moving as fast as she could toward the bus stop at the corner, her faded uniform jacket flapping in the wind. Camilla! He shouted, running after her. She didn't stop. Sebastian pushed harder, weaving between pedestrians, heart pounding. He reached the bus stop just as the 710 bus pulled in with a hiss of brakes. Camilla was already at the door ticket in her trembling hand. Sebastian skidded to a stop in front of her, blocking the entrance. Camilla, please. I was wrong. I shouldn't have asked that in front of them. I was trying to protect you from the law, but I hurt you instead. She looked at him, eyes red and swollen voice raw. You won your deal. Go back and sign it. I'm done. The bus driver called out. Last call for departure. Camilla stepped toward the open door. Sebastian dropped to one knee right there on the dirty sidewalk in front of the entire line of waiting passengers, in front of strangers filming on their phones, in front of the whole world. I'm sorry, he said loudly, clearly, so everyone could hear. I'm sorry for doubting you even for 1 second. You saved my life today. You risked everything for a stranger, and I repaid you by making you feel small again. Camilla froze one foot on the first step of the bus. Sebastian stayed on his knee, voice cracking. You are not invisible. You are not just anything. You are the bravest person I have ever met. And if you walk away right now, I will understand. But I will never stop regretting that I let the only person who truly saw me walk out of my life. The bus driver leaned out. Lady, you getting on or not? Camilla stood completely still, tears falling freely now. She looked at Sebastian kneeling on the pavement. She looked at the bus that would take her away from everything. Then she looked back at the man who had just publicly humbled himself for her in front of strangers. The bus doors began to close. The bus doors began to close with a hydraulic hiss. Camilla stood frozen on the sidewalk, the torn ticket still clutched in her trembling fingers. The driver glanced at her one last time, shrugged, and pulled away into the evening traffic. She didn't move. Sebastian remained on one knee in front of her, breathing hard eyes, never leaving hers. The world around them, the honking cars, the pedestrians staring the distant city lights, faded into silence. Camilla looked down at him for what felt like an eternity. Then very slowly she reached out and took his hand. "Get up," she whispered, voice raw. "You don't have to kneel for me." Sebastian rose, but he didn't let go of her hand. "I would kneel every day if it meant you stayed." She let out a shaky laugh through her tears. "You're impossible, and you're the bravest person I've ever met." They stood there in the middle of the busy sidewalk as the city moved around them, two people who had found each other in the middle of a war neither had asked for. The days that followed were not a fairy tale. Sebastian returned to the boardroom the next morning and publicly canceled the deal. He presented every piece of evidence Camilla had risked her life to gather. The board was stunned. Legal teams were called in. Within 48 hours, both Castellanos and Miguel were under investigation for fraud and conspiracy. Miguel was escorted from the building in handcuffs. He never looked at Sebastian again. Castellanos tried to fight, but the evidence was overwhelming. His empire began to crumble in the weeks that followed. Sebastian didn't celebrate. He simply walked down to the cleaning staff area that same afternoon and found Camilla finishing her shift. He handed her an official company letter. She opened it with shaking hands. It was her promotion to facilities coordinator with full tuition coverage for her nursing program, and a formal statement clearing her name across the entire organization. "I didn't do this for a reward," she said quietly. "I know," Sebastian replied. "That's exactly why you deserve it." Time moved forward, gentle and steady. 3 months later, Camilla graduated from her evening nursing classes at the top of her class. Sebastian and his team sat in the front row. When her name was called, the entire auditorium erupted in applause, not because she was the CEO's friend, but because word had spread about the woman who had saved an entire company with nothing but courage and a broom. 6 months after that, Sebastian launched the Small Business Protection Program, a foundation to help family-owned stores avoid the exact predatory contracts that had destroyed Camilla's father. He named it the Reyes Initiative. Camilla cried when she saw the plaque. 1 year later, on a quiet autumn evening, Sebastian found Camilla sitting on the steps outside the building where it had all begun. The same building where she had once been invisible. She was no longer wearing the gray uniform. She wore a simple coat and held a small bouquet of white flowers. Sebastian sat beside her. "I brought these for your father," she said softly. "I thought, maybe if I left them here, he'd know someone finally stopped the same thing from happening again." Sebastian took her hand. "He knows." They sat in comfortable silence for a long moment, watching the city lights flicker on. Then Sebastian reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He didn't kneel this time. He simply opened it. Inside was a simple silver ring with a single modest diamond. "I don't want to promise you a perfect life," he said quietly. "I can only promise you this: every single day I will choose you, I will choose us, even when it's messy. Especially when it's messy." Camilla looked at the ring, then at him, tears shining in her eyes. She didn't speak at first. She simply took the ring and slid it onto her finger. Then she leaned forward and rested her forehead against his. "I used to think the bravest thing I could do was run," she whispered. "But the bravest thing I ever did was stay." Sebastian smiled, pulling her closer. "And the luckiest thing I ever did," he murmured against her hair, "was listen when a stranger whispered, 'Don't sign.'" Above them, the city lights shimmered like stars that had finally aligned. Somewhere in the distance, a bus rumbled past the same route Camilla used to take every day. But tonight, she wasn't on it. Tonight, she was exactly where she belonged.